Okay, here we are. Hmm. Okay, welcome to the March 2025 Be the Spark Movement conversation. And today's conversation is about finding our voice. And I want to start off our conversation today with a little short meditation. And so, if you're comfortable, just go ahead and close your eyes and notice your breath. And I was listening to something this morning, and it said, your throat chakra is the bridge between your heart and your third eye chakra. So we bring balance to those two places, our heart and our third eye, with our voice, using our voice. So just notice how that feels, placing your attention right there on your throat chakra. And notice if it feels like there's something stuck there, if there's something that you need to say or want to say and you haven't said. Then what is holding you back? How do you find your voice to speak your truth from your heart and your head? And we'll just take a few more breaths here. Noticing how that feels in our body and what comes up in our thoughts. And then when you're ready, begin to open your eyes and come back. What does it mean to find your voice? Yeah, Karen is muted.
Hi, I'm Karen. I feel finding my voice is a deep and personal and transformative journey. To me, it means discovering and embracing the unique essence of who I am, my deep thoughts, my feelings, my values, and my truths.
Mhm.
So that's what finding your voice means to me. Okay. And being able to express them with confidence,
Yes.
authentic, authenticity. I know the word, but it's hard for me to pronounce it. It's the rolling of
Authenticity.
the tongue. Yeah, thank you. The rolling of the tongue for me. It's about, for me, it's about shedding layers of doubt, um, fear, and expectations.
Mhm.
And when I say that, I mean that they may have silenced and distorted my voice in the past. So finding my voice is also about speaking up and knowing how and when to do so.
Yes, that's very, very good.
I can go on and on, but I'm gonna let someone else go and then I'll tap back in.
Thank you, Karen.
I started to say everything Karen said. Um, I see what I was seeing with the voice as so much, and things keep coming up with that, whether it's on a call or a newsletter I get or somebody's talking about it. seems like that I'm hearing at least a lot about people talking about the voice. And so true with an author. We have so much to say.
Right.
Um, and what sticks out today for me is using our voice can be actually speaking our mind, saying what we want to say, speaking the truth, and always knowing that we're doing that. But it could be using our voice, just us privately, and sending it out to the world. So I'm saying, I'm stating my intentions. I'm stating what I want in my life, whether chanting or singing in the privacy of my own home, or speaking to other people, or writing something in my journal that nobody's going to see. I'm still putting it down. So it's still going to the world somehow.
Yes, absolutely. It's very important as an author.
Yeah, really important to get that and to practice. And this has been true for me for the last few months as I'm finishing up a book. Sometimes I'm writing and I can say, well, I'm not working on my book right now, but I'm still writing if I'm journaling because I'm still putting something down. And
Yes.
it goes back into Julia Cameron of doing your morning pages. You're still putting something down, even if you're not going to see it again.
Right. Gets it out of your head.
Yeah.
That's,
I also feel and finding your voice often involves understanding and healing from experiences that you may have suppressed.
Beautiful.
oh yeah. I've probably said this a billion times, and I say it on my podcast all the time, is that we often don't know what we're thinking until we speak it or write it. And then we're like, wow, did that just come out of my mouth? Or did that just come out of my pen? Because you
Yeah.
process it as you speak it.
And the voice doesn't have to be words or with the mouth.
Right.
So a musician um, can be expressing his voice.
I have found on many occasions when sharing the voice, because I don't care what no one says. You can agree we can agree to disagree, but I feel at some point in life that everybody hears voices, and 9 times out of 10, it's higher. It's your higher self. It's your intuitive self speaking to you, or it's the lower part of yourself that is coming to you in a voice form. So, on many occasions, when an individual will share, or you're asked the perfect question, um, are you hearing voices? And you give an honest, yes, I am. Automatically, you're put in a category with a label, uh, with a label,
Mm-hmm.
and then it sends that voice back in, and it causes all kinds of emotional turmoil within oneself because they was just doubting for a truth or a reality. So it took me many years to stand in confidence and be able to effectively express the voices that I hear, that my higher self is telling me to do and not to do. Right?
I believe that.
And not feeling intimidated by someone else's opinion of what this voice is I'm hearing. It's back to when I was much younger. I was given a gift to see things before it happened and hear things as well. And when I verbalized that, I was instantly punished by taking to and put in people's hands that just was getting paid to experiment.
Mm.
And when I took my power back and began to walk in the power I know I was born with, which is my birthright, I became intimidating to them because this is the outcome right here you see sitting here.
Yep. Owning your power.
Sharing with people my gifts has caused me great harm. And I think it was orchestrated to shut me up. But now that I know the power I possess within myself, you cannot shut me up. You
I love
know?
it. I love it. Neil says the same thing about me. Can't shut me up.
It's not a bad thing.
Do you have anything you want to share about finding your voice?
Um, no, I mean, I think finding my voice happened very late in my life, and a lot of it had to do with our relationship and dealing with family stuff that I just had never dealt with. But it took a lot of courage to start it, but once it started, it kind of grew itself, I should say.
Hmm.
So I initially found my voice, I think, with my family. Then it grew into other parts of my life, and I can definitely still shut up if I need to, but I definitely feel like I say more of what's on my mind than I ever have in my life, and it's I don't know if liberating is the right term, but it's um it's almost like your life light is brighter if you're
Yep.
sharing your voice. So and I apologize for being a little late. I had a hard time logging in. So
You're fine.
yep,
You're here.
yep.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Hmm.
Karen, I like your interpretation too of listening to your inner voice, because sometimes it's not about sharing your voice with others. Kind of like Terry was saying about journaling, it's about just finding what it is that you need to say. And whether it's on paper or verbalized with a friend or even speaking out loud to yourself, singing, it's knowing what is inside of us that needs to come out.
Well, that's how I've gotten to the point in my life where I'm at now, is how do I find ways to transmute through my creativity what I need to express that I'm not being heard on, and I had to travel many doors, knock on many doors until I began to build my own doors for them to open up and me actually be able to express from the core of me in a short amount of words. You know, I've
Precision.
I'm learning that through my initial struggle. I'm learning that from my turning point. Where was my turning point? And finding my voice. I'm learning that through how and what it takes for me to go through my healing process and being able to just comfortable and confident to share. Because there is people that may not have the capacity to read something and comprehend it, but can hear through your story, what has been history for them,
Yes.
and can gravitate to something that will help with their healing process, and at some point allow their throat chakra to become open.
Yes. Yes. That's sharing our story in all kinds of ways. I think just this platform here is helping us share our stories. And of course, I know Karen, you do all kinds of things to help other people. And Terry and I are both authors also. Uh, Neil just listens to my stories.
You know,
He makes his own up too. They're all about zombies, but that's
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
But you're right. Every time we share our story, our experience, we give somebody else just a little nugget of inspiration or wisdom that they can use to light their path.
And it's also Carrie, as well, is you know how do you find your voice with no guidance, right? This is what people with experience and self very high self-esteem, and have worked in some areas of their life where when their voice is utilized, it won't be utilized in coming from a broken place or a place that is harmful to someone else.
Right.
See, this is when I take back to one of our prior groups where we were speaking about mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes me back to, like I said, my daily routine and being mindful of how I even respond to people, because it takes courage to speak out. It takes courage for some people to even ask for help,
Yes.
and and asking for help to get a response that may feel like rejection will close you down, but not finding your voice can cause great amount of physical harm to the body,
True. Very
because
true.
once there's a blockage in anything, you don't have a flow. You don't have a flow or enough oxygen to that organ to keep you functioning properly, because you're locked in, finding ways to transmute energies that keeps us restricted. I mean, I may sound like a tape recorder right now, but this is, like I told you, my daily routine for myself. And if anybody never heard me speak before, they will see that I've come a long way, especially being off the toxic medications they were giving me, because I heard a voice, or because I had found my voice and shared my voice, and it was too strong for their imagination. So they had to do something to try to suppress me
Yeah,
and keep me from waking up to my highest conscious and knowing myself.
that's true.
So the stutter or the stump in between is a big difference from when I couldn't get the words out.
That's amazing. And you've come such a long way. You have worked so hard. I'm just in awe.
But it takes a lot of work, because anybody can say anything, but are you saying it because you're coming from a broken place? Are you saying it because you're seeking help? Are you saying it because you just like how it sounds? It's a reason behind
Yes,
what is in it, and it's all about finding your voice with certain tones.
I agree. Because nowadays, people will record and put anything out in the world. And so often I see people sharing their voice of anger and fear and hatred, and that does not change anything. That just brings everybody down. So I feel really bad for those people who are stuck in that place because they're not changing anything for the better. They're just perpetuating fear and anger and hatred.
You
And they're
know,
not getting the response that they need to, I'm going to borrow your word, transmute that into love and growth and actual change in this world.
and I can tell you, coming from that angry person who didn't know nothing but to display anger and stay on the defense mode, because as you know my story, I didn't have a mother to protect me or to teach me or to guide me, so I had to go through some hard trials and tribulations until finally one day that someone came along to help me instead of cause me more harm, or me cause myself more harm because I did not know.
Right.
And there's a lot of people out there today that do not know where to begin because they were denied, um they were denied the opportunity just to be helped express what they're feeling,
Right.
just to be helped to say, this is my problem.
Mm.
And if you don't know the right words to say, or the words that will cause you more harm than help, then you're creating a monster for yourself. And that's what I had to learn over the many years that I used my voice, that I was labeled and all kinds of things for using my voice, until they tried to take it away from me by suppressing me with a bunch of different medications and being a guinea pig for that time, I'm going to say. It wasn't until then I was able to really find the right words to verbalize and express what I was, my point, what my point is. I'm being harmed. Could you please help me? Not I want to hurt myself, not
Mhm.
um I want to hurt somebody, but not knowing the words I'm at that time, because all I know is they hurting me. You
Right.
understand what I'm saying? This
Right.
is what a lot of people is going through today.
And you're trying to protect yourself.
Right. But
Yeah.
then get in front of the wrong person and use that one wrong phrase, cause you great harm. And two, you have to go in that box and find your way out again. You have to go within. And when you step back out, you're prepared, because everything starts inside.
Right. Right.
Inside. You cannot look for help on the outside to fix near situation you're going through, because all the work must be put inward.
You're right. I see Terry's thinking.
I've got a few things. Yeah, you're seeing my eyes. I see a couple of things in this, and Karen expressed she needed to use her voice to express how she felt,
Hmm.
and that's very important, no matter how we use it, whether we use it to tell somebody else or to ask for help or whatever. But the flip side of that is a lot of people use their voice to try to manipulate somebody or to change somebody else's view. And everything I heard Karen saying is it's all about what she was feeling
Hmm.
and needed to say and needed to express. So
Yes.
it suddenly see a huge difference as I heard that in how people use their voice in different ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you have to set that intention that you're going to use your voice to not only better yourself, but to better the people that you're around or the people that you want to influence.
I have a question,
Okay.
right? Okay, because can you or anyone you know have ever witnessed or can identify the difference between someone having a spiritual awakening or a mental breakdown? How do you tell the difference?
There's
How
a
do you know
lot of
the difference?
similarities in those two things.
How does somebody outside tell the difference?
Yeah.
How does somebody inside know the difference of what's happening within them?
I can tell you how I knew the difference that I was not having a mental breakdown opposed to I was having a spiritual awakening.
Okay.
I can tell you my difference, but I've sat on many platforms across this country in the universities as I was going through school. And upon me going there, a lot of my issues revolved around mental health and its services
Mm-hmm.
and how I felt and had to do a whole lot of advocating for them to change a diagnose that they had labeled me with, and I knew and I never claimed it, but it always disturbed me that it was there. So I fought until I was on a whole platform. I'm the only student on this platform. And in fact, the only student out of 7 campuses to get the Woman of the Year award in 2022, a C-star. Okay. Because I needed to know. I needed to know how, when you have lives in your hands and you're just going by a piece of paper of an evaluation, you're not having a conversation with an individual himself. You're just going in there as a looking over your glasses with this fine point pen and writing down and jotting down, giving a person a puzzle to complete, and they complete it in a very short matter of time, but you still have this label. When are you going to remove it? Done tried many different medications on me, okay? Until that one time, after 10 days, I woke up and said, hold up, wait a minute. What's going on? Somebody explain something to me. How did I get here? Why am I here? Boom. And it wasn't until then the stop began to take place when I regained my own power from what I already knew. So, in finding my voice, I had to fight for justice.
Yes.
I
Yes.
had to fight for what I already knew was the right thing. And you know what? Put a good fight in too. I put a
I
good
can
fight
see that.
till I stand with all of my scruples, okay? And yes, I've won my case. Why? Because I was wronged. And I knew I was wrong, and I knew I was being wrong. And I knew that what I was telling you, you had the opportunity to go take that information and do something about it to help me as an individual who could not help themselves. Instead, you took the wheel and you did more harm. You caused
Yeah.
more harm.
Yep.
And now you don't have to give me papers of a re-diagnose. You know why? Because I sit here as the re-diagnose in rare form, you know?
Yes,
So I
ma'am.
just wanted to
Mhm.
share that, and I share that with a lot of force because it's just the elements, the four elements that's working inside of me. And for many years, I stayed in that emotional part, which was that water part
Yeah.
of the elements. I stayed there for many years. I've cried so many tears that all of y'all could have took a bath and it'd have been clean water for somebody else. That's how many tears I've cried. But
Yeah.
now I'm in my fire. I'm in my fire and I use my ear to blow out my own torch when I need to refill my gas tank.
I see it. You glow.
Thank you.
Yep,
I
you
see
sure
it.
do. Inspire.
I see it. Terry, do you have a thought on the difference between a mental breakdown and a spiritual awakening?
Well, I can say I've only experienced one of those. So, um, I'll say I've had emotional situations, but I can't recall having a mental breakdown that I'm aware of. But I've talked to people who've explained their experience. And I'm thinking that there's really no way to know from someone outside. I mean, I know a trained psychiatrist, trained psychologist can know what to look for, and I've studied a little bit in that area, but to really know, it's still a theory unless somebody's really in that person's head and knows what's coming through.
I can see that too. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Terry.
And I'm going into, historically speaking, talking about speaking in tongues and getting an exorcist and all these situations in the mid 1800s, where we came into scientifically understanding what's going on in the mental process. And yeah, when I start thinking about it, the only thing I can think of is the difference is somebody's perception.
Or maybe your own perception.
Or the
Yeah.
person experiencing it.
Mm.
Now, when I've experienced, I won't say awakening, it's been so gradual that I won't say I've had a major awakening, but when I channel, or I'm getting my own higher self telling me something, I can tell the difference
Mhm.
on whether it's my chitter chatter brain at 3 o'clock in the morning and whether it's some kind of substance, a wise answer. I can tell the difference. And the only difference I can say is that chitter chatter is nonsense. It makes no sense. And when I get something that makes more sense than I can even comprehend, then I know it's coming from a higher source.
I can see that.
That's why throughout me reading different books that helps me process different information into learning myself. Not
Mhm.
nobody else, myself. I've read a book. It's called Thinking versus Thought.
Mm. I'm going to write that one down to share with everybody.
Okay. You can have a thought, and what you do with that thought is just a thought. But if you're thinking too much about that thought, is where and when you create chaos for your brain to even process many different things at one time, right? Because that thought you had, you done you're thinking about it so much until it don't go nowhere.
Like a
Like a
spiral. Yeah.
yeah, keeps
On a
going,
loop.
keeps
Yeah.
going. And when do you give your brain a break? She
That's
needs to
true.
rest too. She needs to rest too. So if we constantly having chatters in our head and listening to the voices, you have to, it's like a light switch, on, off, on. You have to know when to turn it off and when to go inside of your own temple, clear your mind. Like you said, you woke up with a song,
Mhm.
okay? Your higher self, your conscious self held on to that memory of that thought even throughout the night of you sleeping, because you had found ways to rest your mind. And it had to be a, a very good song that you like, because it
Mhm.
stayed with you. It
Yep.
had to have some meaning to it because it stuck with you throughout the night, and put that the first thing in your mind. See, what we go to bed with, we wake up with if we don't transmute it the right way.
Yep.
That's why I say people with these jobs, they have these jobs, they have these titles, right? But they don't know how to detach after the 8-hour work shift.
Yeah.
And then go into the other mode of themselves, which may be family. You know, you may have family, you may have children. But before you lay your head to rest, it should be that time when you wind down and find that time for yourself.
Yeah.
Because then you're going to get up with the same schedule you had. I got to go to work because I got to be there on time. I got to do this. But when is that self-care sitting in? When is that time to really find your own creativity outside of the family?
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. I
That's why a lot of people, and that's back to what you said, that's why a lot of people are so angry. Even people with a job, no gratitude.
right,
Even
right,
people, because they have to go to work, not knowing how to transmute and change hats, from the caseworker, the psychiatrist, the author. They don't know how to change hats
right.
and step
And
inside the
B,
temple
yeah.
and find grounding there in their own temple to be helpful or useful to someone else.
Yeah. Neil may disagree with this, but I don't think I've had a mental breakdown, but I've been in a really bad sea. He's looking off in the world. I've been in a really bad place before. And the difference in being in that negative, chaotic energy and then starting my spiritual awakening and my healing is that my intentions for the day changed. Like I was just like, if I just get through this day and don't get angry and don't get, I don't know, drunk or whatever it was, it became, oh, my intention is I want to learn something today and I want to sit in the sunshine today and I want to grow and I want to expand and I want to meet new people and I don't want to be in this dark, heavy energy anymore. That's the difference for me. Do you have anything to add to that, Neil?
No, I mean, just, but if I've not seen a mental break, I'd prefer not to know. Just saying.
I
Another thing that I have noticed, when throughout my commute to handle whatever I need to handle throughout the day, I've noticed that there's a lot of mental challenges out there.
mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people that's not, you can sit in your house and look on the news. That mental health has become one of the biggest priorities of this world.
It's a huge crisis.
And it's being overlooked.
Yeah.
It's being overlooked because nobody never takes the time to sit back and say, what can we do to fix this?
Yeah.
How can we orchestrate some things that's designed for these people that you can look at and tell, not the quiet one. And you got to watch out for those too that can't say, oh, I'm feeling a little over the place or I'm out of whack today. And for anybody to say that every day of their life is a perfect day is be lying to me and everybody else.
Right.
Because
Right.
we all at some point or another have dis-ease mentally from time to time.
Absolutely.
We all,
Absolutely.
because you know why? Because we're human.
Absolutely. We got to know the dark so we can recognize the light.
And that's just like any human being. We are dark and light. What side you choose to move in is your choice.
Right.
Because there's the back side of us and there's the front side of us, but at the same time, it's just that one, which is our shadow self.
Yep. Yeah, I do think that part of finding your voice and having that spiritual awakening is deep self-reflection. And I find that going back to that loop in your head, I find that if you have a loop in your head and you want to, and I try this, I'm not saying I'm successful at it all the time, but sit and listen instead of think. And that's the difference. I think when I sit and listen, I always get something meaningful and deeper spiritually. But when I sit and think, that's when that loop and that spiral goes out of hand.
Okay, excuse me, I've got to let a cat out.
Okay. I can relate.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think about I think about when my dad was getting ready to pass away and how I was praying and listening for guidance and praying for healing. And I was sitting in meditation and listening. And that's when I saw him ascend and I knew that he was close to leaving his earthly body for sure. So, and those are my experiences that let me know that when I do sit and listen, that I can receive information that is going to guide me. So I guess what I'm saying is that, along with using our voice, we also have to be prepared to listen and receive feedback.
Yeah, and I think there's part of it of when you're getting messages to know who to share them with.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
Or anything that you have to use your voice with is to know who your audience is.
Who's going to be receptive?
Yeah. A musician can write a song or an author can write a book, and we can't control whose hands it's going to get into. But when we get up on a YouTube channel, we can still control who's going to watch it.
For me, what I have learned that, for me, what I have learned that any garbage that I decide to dispose of, that I don't want to carry no more, if it's picked up, then it's no longer my garbage because I threw it out.
Yep.
Get up there.
Yep. We got to learn to leave it instead of come back and visit it time and again. Yeah. Definitely. Such a great conversation. Does anybody have any closing thoughts around using your voice or any encouraging words for somebody who's struggling to find their voice?
I would say somebody who's struggling to find their voice is to start journaling and write it down on your own until you know what it is, and that's how to discover it, which is what worked for me many years ago.
I have to agree. If you met me, you know I'm a huge journaler and I encourage everybody to journal. And it's kind of like a place to practice using your voice. Very, very much so. That's some really great advice.
Yeah, I did a lot of work, oh gosh, well over 20 years ago with the artist and doing the morning pages till I decided I didn't want to do it anymore. But going through this process and journaling, just writing about my day at the end of the day, I didn't realize how powerful that was in clearing stuff out. So
Mm-hmm.
wake up the next morning, as Karen said, with the same crap in my head again. Um, and what I didn't know back then, which I know now, as I'm looking back 25 years ago, is how much I've actually grown over the years because of that. Because we can't see that as it's happening.
Right. Right. And part of my healing journey was actually going back. I pulled out in 2020, I pulled out all my journals, and some of them were as old as like 10 years old, and started going back through them and reading them and, asking myself, wow, that's a pattern, this thought process or this process that I go inward when I'm hurt. Because
But
I mean, mostly I would write in my journal when I was hurt, right? Which is
Yeah.
a good thing. But then recognizing patterns throughout my entire life and discovering like how they built on each other through the years, all the way back to like fifth grade. And then I get to untangle that, and it allows me to untangle everything forward. It was fascinating. So those journals, yeah,
but
I'm one.
I have things that have really worked for me because, sometimes we think we don't have to step back into something because we've done healed that portion of our life. But we find out that when we don't step back into it and do whatever work is needed, it comes up again for resolve. Right.
Absolutely.
So what I do is as I'm working on fixing putting the pieces of the puzzle together to complete my soul and my soul journey, I have to keep going back into places I thought was closed chapters.
Yep.
But I'm able to tap back into those places with a new mindset at a different level of my life. Where, okay, I've healed in this area, but this part is still need some stitching so the puzzle could fit, the piece could fit perfectly in there and there's no leakage.
Yep.
It's no way. This is why I keep my aura on a daily basis clean. So only thing can go inside is what I put.
Hmm.
And it's no room for nothing else to reside inside because I'm filling it up, them gaps up with positive influences.
I love that. I love that. And you're right. Things do pop back up and you're like, oh, wait, thought I was through that. I had that come up a couple of weeks ago, and Neil and I talked about it last weekend. And it's like, oh, I thought I was like, I don't want to say over it. I always say you have to get through it. and heal it, and little things pop back up and you're like, oh, you're still there. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Is what you say to that side of yourself, or that
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
when I started writing the book and where I was going, I went back in some journals that I literally had to look and hunt for this box that I had of journals when I moved in, when my husband and I got married and I moved in, and I had all these stuff from 25 years ago, 20 to 25 years ago. And I'm looking, and so I started pulling these out and thought maybe this will give me a clue to some of the stuff in my life. And what it ended up doing was I was reading this and I had no idea what I was writing about. And
Mm.
or who there were names of people that 20, 25 years ago I'd forgotten, and like, who are these people that, some coworker or somebody that pissed me off or whatever. And I started reading that and I thought, this isn't helpful. But I knew I had to go through that part and clear that and to heal from that, because there's still part of my 35-year-old self that might be still hurting from this. So I went through that and I thought, okay, I'm going to finish this and I'm going to read the rest later after I finish writing the book, because it's going to disturb the journey of the book writing.
I
And
see.
yeah, and it was really, what was really cool was I was reading this, and for one thing, I thought, I know this was written for nobody to read, and I wouldn't dare show it to anybody, but I almost felt like my 58-year-old self was invading the privacy of the 35-year-old that had written it. And I thought, you know, I don't even need to know this.
Yeah, because you left it there.
I left it there. It was, and I never read, of course, I never read all those again.
It's fascinating. And I was like,
Before I could even go into when I began writing, I had to go into the correctional of fixing what I couldn't write, what stayed in my head and in my heart as a memory that seemed that it would never go away. So I had to work on those aspects first, right? And then when I did go into what I was writing, it was everything when I began to write, everything that I was already working on, far as the things that I needed to say to the people I needed to say it to, and things to that nature. And now I find that still at times, because I said everything comes back for resolve when you think you worked in certain areas, but I really had to embrace the little girl and really from time to time still pay her attention, not cast her out like she's grown, she's under the rug, she's never coming back, because she
right.
has the tendency of showing up and showing out.
Oh, yeah.
Not just the little girl, the little boy that didn't get the chance to be the little boy or had to grow up so fast as a grown man. Just
Right.
in any gender is just a gender. Anybody. You understand? The little person that's within there that like to come out and play sometime, that like to just read books sometime. You have to, I keep it, I make I statements. I have to embrace her, but I have her where there's boundary. It's a time to play and it's a time. All the time is not a good time to run around like a little girl with the phone, playing video games on the phone or doing puzzles. Sometimes you have to sit still and read this book and take in this information.
Right.
It's like still having to embrace her because she's not going nowhere. Why? She's not, yeah, she grows up, but she's still a little girl.
Yeah. You get to protect her
Yeah.
now that you know what you know. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
That's beautiful. I love that. Neil, do you have any final thoughts?
No, I don't think so. Just it's just inspiring to hear everybody, and even for us, for those of us, it's hard to speak your voice and say your voice. It's something you got to kind of work at and keep in the front of your mind that you're doing it.
Yeah.
So it's always I won't say struggle, but it's always you have to be mindful. At least I do. So
Yeah. I think finding somebody that you trust so you can practice.
Hmm.
If you need to
True.
speak to somebody else, you can be like, hey, this is what I want to say to this person who's disrupting my life or has hurt me. Does this sound appropriate? And then you get to, when you practice that too, you get to tweak it, right? You're like, oh, well, that didn't sound like I thought it sounded in my head.
Yeah, it's
And
a
you
good
get to,
point.
yeah, you get to tweak it and, experience it before so you can have your power when you finally confront the person that you need to talk to, if that's the case.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Well, what a great discussion we've had today. And I'm going to stay on so I can meet Tasha Karen, but I'm going to stop recording now. But I just want to thank everybody who's here today and sharing their story, sharing their wisdom, and finding your voice because it is very powerful.
Yep. Thank you.
And
Larry,
so,
I'm gonna uh send you Tasha's email. Maybe you can invite her for the next group because she's in the middle of writing right now.